they can be done using the by creating a new class and inheriting this class. So we can do the redefinition of the methods within this class, which helps us to further enhance our UI models. So we can have enhanced feeder classes, enhanced connector classes. So after this, when we go to UI model, we can have an additional set of properties that can be implemented using the suitable enhancement of the implementation classes. Now, apart from the root object, if we see, there are certain query objects, static query location, and there is another object called as result query object. There is an attribute structure, and there is also something called as a dynamic query location. So dynamic query location, this is again one of the feeder parameters in the UI model. So for connector classes, for feeder classes, especially for search queries, we will require these the definition of this object name. So this general model will be used for our ongoing for our UI model definitions. So let's come out of this, and so after we have created the data model and then we check, then let's define certain business activities. So we have created a business object, a new business object, and in order to proceed further, we will also need to create a new business activity for our custom object. And we will define a mapping here, and let's call this custom object as ZABA, and let's call this as MDG business activity for let's say ZA, and let's call this data model. Enter the data model, the identification of the PO type, and let's also enter or select the logical action, which in this case is create. So we are using create as a logical action for our use case, as we said earlier. So we define this definition, enter it and save it. So a new business activity gets created in the system, gets defined in the system. And with this business activity, let's also define a new change request for our custom object. And so let's directly go to new entries, and as said earlier, let's use this ZA create as the type of the change request, and then we enter the data model, and so we call this as create location. We need to select whether this is multiple object or single object, and then we need to define the main entity type location. So this we can identify this from the F4 help, and then let's define a standard workflow template, which is 46000027 in the standard MDG. So with this definition of the change request, now let's do the possible assignment. So we'll select this line and define the main entity type, which basically is the point of entry into the change request process. So let's select location, and in a subsequent node we will also select the business activity. So ZABA is the business activity. And after we are done with this assignment, let's save this change request. So it says that for the given workflow still we do not have the processor assigned, so which is logical, we haven't created the so let's complete this part. Let's go to the workflow, and we know that this basically is a simple workflow. So first we need to so let's check. So these are the steps. So 460027 has 4 steps, or rather 5 steps, and in this uh, the necessary configuration for the template is already in place, and we will use it to define the change request steps. So we will then go to the, and in the new definition let's call this as a ZA create, and so we'll pick up the step number, so either from the help. So because this change request is already assigned to the workflow, so the system knows that which are the possible steps. So let's select all these steps, and so we enter all these steps, and then let's assign a suitable processor for these change request step. So in this short demonstration, let's make it to the US basically means the user according to the standard MDG definition, and let me assign my user ID as an agent so that I am able to process the change, the workflow process linked to the change request. So I'll assign this, and after I enter and then save it with reference to the change request. So a basic process model gets defined in the system, and once the new CR type is defined and we have linked this CR type to the business activity, we have defined the main point of entry as location to the CR type, and in a subsequent step we also assigned the processor to the corresponding workflow. Now so far what we have done, if we see that so we have defined the business object type, we created a custom data model, and then we defined the business activities, and we did some basic configurations into the process model. That means the CRT is defined, then we linked it to the logical action, and we then did the workflow configuration for the standard template, which means assignment of the user processors. Now let's move to the next part, which is the development of the UI model, wherein we'll go for the search UI as the first step. So in order to build a search application, let's go to the customizing node for the UI model, and wherein we'll find a customizing activity called manage UI configuration. So a web interface opens, and within this you will see there are templates provided by standard MDG, and we'll use one such template. As you see, USMD search. So let's select a template. So the application USMD underscore search with a template, and we will use this template to copy and create our own application, webbed in pro application for the search application, for the search UI. So here we see that we are now into the floor plan manager application hierarchy, and so this is the template, and so we can select the objects that we want to create. So we'll deselect the objects within the section, and so by default the system has added a prefix called Z, and at the same time we will remove this application. So we'll say ZA, and in the second case let's call this as ZUSMD search OVP, and then we will have a suffix with our data model. So with this new definition for the application configuration and the UI configuration, we will start the copy. So press this button, and okay, so I think in the test system this is already in place. So let's call this as ZZ. So we'll use this ZZ as the target and the application. So let's then say start deep copy. It requires the definition or the selection of our local object, and then subsequent to this we find that it gets copied. Now the new application gets built, gets copied, and we'll click on the first application configuration. So application configuration basically is used to assign the user parameters. So we'll go into the edit mode of this application configuration, ZZUSMD search ZA, and so basically in this parameter list we will do the assignment of 3 parameters. The first one is OTC number, so we know that the object type code is ZAC01. The model, the second is the USMD model, which is ZA, and the third one is the name of the entity, which we call it as location. And with this we can check the correctness of these assignments, and then we save it. So once we save this, we can close this screen and come back to the application hierarchy screen, and from here let's open the UI configuration, and in the UI configuration let's navigate to